summon anything, mill your deck, slap the shit out your opponent. Why? Fuck you, that's why. Now give me $800 and go beat these fucking scrubs playing Cyber Dragons. Alright, welcome back to the Dueling Wave. Dueling Beard here, signing in, trying to teach you some more stuff about the game. You guys notice I'm in a different part of the house now. No more cool Nikola Jokic jersey and Batman paraphernalia. I'm going to set this up. This is going to be my permanent place to record. I was kind of looking for one, and I think this is the spot. Excuse the plainness of the background. But let's just get into this. When we look back at Yu-Gi-Oh's history, the game starts at a generic spot where each deck had about 10 to 20, maybe even as far as 25, hell, even maybe 30 cards that were all the same. If someone showed you these same 15 to 30 cards from a deck profile, you would not know what deck this was. You could not fathom to guess. You could maybe, due to how many metamorphoses they ran or how many scapegoats they ran, you could maybe surmise whether it's a goat deck or a chaos deck or something else. But overall, it was very hard to tell. The game's genericness in the past was its calling card and a feature that people enjoyed and still enjoy to this day. That's why GOAT format is so played to this day. The game shifted away from that as the years went on because Konami realized that you can't just keep printing generically good cards. Everyone's going to run those, and then no one's going to run the other cards, right? Think about how many of archetypes that you like have bad cards in them, but you have to play them because they're cards that are forced as part of the engine. In this video today, we're going to discuss what design philosophy is better. I'll kind of chime in with my own thoughts. Obviously, this is a discussion opinion video, but and I'm going to have an opinion on it, what I think is better. When you look at it, we go from generic piles, like I said, of 15 to 25 cards. The problem was so prevalent that even the first ban list, when it was released, it was because of this reason. No matter the deck that you played, you still ran the same key cards that basically carried your strategy. It was almost as if there were these certain 15 to 20 to 30 cards that were just, they were the tier 1 cards, and then whatever else you ran was just what is like the least bricky, not that, to run along with this for you to win, right? So that happened to be Chaos actually provided something, even though it was inherently bricky, but it was such a high power level that it was people ran it. And then the standard GOAT cards were just powerful one-offs, powerful monsters that you can summon eventually off of. Thousand Eyes Restrict would hold the game at a stalemate for a while. You'd be able to tribute summon a Jinzo and just kind of carry the game from there, or maybe get to your BLS, which is essentially the queen of that format, the analogy to chess, and then you would just dunk on your opponent, right? When we look at that old school gameplay, it's akin to everyone running vanilla ice cream with different toppings. Yes, the different toppings are giving us the illusion of difference in choice, but at the end of the day, we're all still just running vanilla ice cream, right? And even if you love vanilla ice cream, you can be a realist about this. Something you don't want every single time. Every deck list had, let's just count them off, 2 Magician of Faith, 1 to 2 Magical Merchant, 2 Tsukiyomi, 1 BLS, 2 Scapegoats, 2 to 3 Metamorphosis, 2 to 3 Book of Moon, 2 Knock, 1 Pot of Greed, 1 Graceful, 1 Delinquent, 1 Heavy, 1 MST, 1 Snatch Steal, 1 Mirror Force, 1 TT, 1 Ring of Destruction, and 1 Call of the Haunted. That's literally 23 to like 30 cards that are all the same in every list. Yes, some of these lists might be incredibly varied with what strategies they're trying to run, whether it be burn or chaos or Parshath, draw 1 card every time you battle damages. At the end of the day, you're still just running. You're winning because of your Pot of Greed, your Mirror Forces, your Torrentials. That's why it's so key to not play into those cards in those formats. No one says, man, I really got to play around Berserk Gorilla. No, every time you're playing around BLS or Torrential or Heavy Storm. If the majority of the decks are the same, then that means the game is generic by definition, right? Walmart brand, Dollar General, Dollar Tree. The genericness of this format proves to be its own undoing. GOAT was the first old format ever discovered by the Yu-Gi-Oh player base and played on a wide margin where you'd see it consistently around locals, even if it wasn't unofficially sanctioned by Konami. But it hasn't fallen out of favor, but it's sort of taken a back seat to other formats. Because at the end of the day, yes, it is diverse in illusion, and it is fun, but at the end of the day, better formats like Edison eclipse it. And that is why when you see tournament breakdowns of Time Wizard formats, you see GOAT has fallen to second, sometimes third choice. When we go further in time, the top decks of Edison format, we see that Blackwing plays differently from Frogs, which plays differently from Lightsworn, which plays differently from Dragons, which plays differently from Dark Arm Dragon. Every single deck has a varied and different playstyle. There's Tengu. No, Tengu's later. No, that's wrong format. That's another popular format that has varied decks. But in Edison, you have so many different decks that play all sorts of different ways. It seems to be that people fell back into the old Yugi boomer trap of, hey, let's play an old format. Let's have fun with old Yu-Gi-Oh. Let's be nostalgic. And they did that. And little did they know that they wouldn't find the answer there. It's out of the old formats, it's not what you're looking for, because once you've had a taste of new Yu-Gi-Oh, it's very hard to just go back to old stuff and just go, no, bro, I'm good with set 1, set 2 pass, right? And the payoff ultimately being come back to me and then maybe set again, right? A 30-turn game, just at a certain point, man, we're all adults. Like most of the Yu-Gi-Oh player base is adults now. We don't have enough time to just sit every single time through a 30-turn slog of a game, even though it can be very fun. No, that notwithstanding, it's still difficult to want to get yourself up off of the mat to want to do that. It's a lot to invest. As we look at more Edison decks, pretty much every list, I'm gonna pop them, throughout as I'm talking. The only card that comes up is Heavy Storm in almost every build. Otherwise, there's some decks run a lot of traps, like your bottomlesses and your generic really good traps. Some don't even run those. Some run just 3 Reckless Greed for more consistency and more speed, right? So this theory of genericness being the downfall of a format seems to be holding up somewhat, because at the end of the day, GOAT is much more generic than Edison. But let's continue to another format and see if this continues to hold up. So as the game progresses, we get further into more archetypal, more xenophobic decks that don't engage with each other, don't play with each other, they just play their stuff, and it works very well. So when we get to one of my personal favorite formats that I hope that becomes good in the future, like popular in the future, not good, it already is good, was good, is the Burning Abyss format of 2015, mid 2015, right before Monarchs dropped. Pretty much any of those formats. I think mid 2015, the BAs weren't really hit, like the limit of Graph and the semi-limit of Seer or whatever. They still haven't happened yet. So this format was probably one of my favorites. And when you look at this format, you got top decks such as BA, Necros, Clownblade, Cosmo, Infernoids, and Shaddolls, all at the top tables. All of these decks have interesting playstyles, but more interestingly than that, each is pretty xenophobic to the other, and to other strategies in general. BA had an inherent hatred for other monsters who would blow themselves up in the mere presence of a non-BA, almost like your high school crush whenever she would be within restraining order distance of you. Necros was notoriously hard to integrate with other stuff, because it only worked really well with other Necros cards and generic ritual support. And after you threw those into a deck, it was very hard to pile in more generic stuff. Shaddol and Cloudblade were a little more pily, because Shaddol Fusion could theoretically send any monster to the graveyard, but that was at the price of going second. And going first, you'd have to have a lot of Shaddol cards still just to be able to resolve Shaddol Fusion. So overall, Shaddol still had its, yes, I have to run, I can run more generic free stuff, but overall I still have to stick within the Shaddol archetype pretty close. And that kind of sticks to the archetype to this day. It's been one of the more generic fusion engines that keeps coming back, but at the end of the day, it still has to be mostly Shaddol, unless it goes second. It's been used as this going second engine, which inherently I don't really have a problem with. Going second should get all the benefits in the world, while going first should get every limitation in the world. Clownblade also was more just generic rank 4, take damage or whatever, and then get the 2 dudes from the graveyard back and be able to like rank 4 and stuff like that. Yeah, that's all cool. Overall, I that deck really didn't do that well, but it was included in the format, so I had to include it here. And then if you look at Infernoids, they needed total dedication to their playstyle, or else they would handle like a Toyota Prius with the engine removed and replace with a paraplegic hippo. Hear me out. I'm not against genericness. I think it brings creativity to the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! I think genericness is actually really cool. I've seen some really cool builds. I mean, Dragon Link itself is a deck that's built on genericness. It's a generic pile that's honestly really, really interesting that it exists. And we've seen a lot of that in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! But genericness is one of those Pandora's box catch-22 type things where, yes, we get this, but we also get straight up like evil. Like the most disgusting, degenerate, over-the-top bullcrap. And it seems like Konami's really capitalized on this aspect of the game and has even further leaned into the genericness to just capitalize and make more money. Before I continue, what do you think? You have any thoughts? If you do, about the state of the game in general, or should be more generic or less generic, tell me in the comments down below. I'd like to hear your opinion. Maybe you've come across something that I haven't seen that would kind of confirm my suspicions or debunk them. But let's continue. Let's go to the modern game. The modern game has been, in my opinion, since the release of Link Reigns Pack 1 and on. Konami introduced a problem into the game. They forced players to play through the one extra monster zone that they forced on you. This was absolutely gooch sweat. They, instead of fixing this problem, in their infinite wisdom, decide to profit off of it and give us Link Reigns 1, 2, 3, and I think 4, where they release these god-awful, insanely overtuned, insanely generic Link 2s, Link 3s that are so broken, so insane for the game. It literally turned the game upside down. Where the game used to be pretty cool, where you could, when you're summoning your monsters, think about it, if you put yourself in the past before Link monsters, you would make, theoretically, right, let's say you can make a synchro or an XYZ or whatever, and it would have an effect that says, if this card is sent to the graveyard, or if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, blah, blah, blah. All of those requirements were very hard to trigger until Links. If you think about it, how would you remove monsters from the field before Link monsters were introduced? You would remove them for XYZ. Actually, XYZ summons doesn't remove from the field. You remove them for synchro summonings or fusion summonings. That was the only way to remove monsters from the field. Now, you can link away with XYZs. You can link away with synchros. You can link away with fusions to make all these Link monsters triggering broken effects that before could never be triggered. I mean, how would you get Dante off the field before? You couldn't, unless you like tribute him. You're not gonna fuse with them, right? Even if they made Terminus. So when you look at it that way, Link monsters broke the game because it allowed you to trigger too many effects that shouldn't be. They were designed for you to float on your opponent's turn, for you to have follow-up. But instead, it just became, hey, this is a new way for me to get more stuff on my turn, turn 1. When they released these generic Link monsters, for the most generic summoning method, i.e. Link, what were their thinking? What was their thought process? That the players would just be like, cool, look, this supports Crystron, I'll play it in Crystron. This supports Predaplant, I'll play it in Predaplant. Just because you put the word Predaplant in Predaplant Verte Anaconda doesn't mean that people will run it in Predaplants. It means that people will use it to summon a literal god card from the anime. Yes, I know he wasn't in the anime, but he's basically an Egyptian god card anime effects. Right? He can negate, he can destroy, he can... And he's awesome, don't get me wrong. But to summon him for free at the end of your turn just by using 2 monsters of whatever on your field, summon him and then you're just blowing up everything. You're basically, it's a 1-card OTK if you're going second. If you're going first, here's an additional negate for 2 monsters I didn't even need. This is hella sus, Konami. Before you knew it, there were hand loops, FTKs, and 1.5 million negate boards made without any counterplay because, of course, we didn't have Dark Ruler no more. We didn't have Forbidden Droplets, we didn't have Super Poly yet, we didn't have anything. We just had to sit across from your opponent, watch them combo off for 20 minutes, and lose. This is where you get degeneracy like Needle Fiber into Link Cross, into Auroradon combos, Verte Anaconda, take 2 random monsters, win game, Isolde, into Gumlar Hand Loop, into more stuff now that we saw it get hit for, like the stupid Acid Golem combo and the Noble Knights FDK, basically looking at your hand and then making 20 negates that can play around Super Poly somehow. Electromite. We forgot about Electromite. Plus 10 into 17 negates. Union Hanger into Buster Lock. Why does it not equip unions? Why does it equip any monster? Curious, who dumps literally any card from deck to grave. Any card. We Foolish Burial from the extra now. We summon from the extra deck a free Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial's at 1. We just made that. Here we go. We just can send now a card. Hieratic Heavenly Spheres, somehow the fairest one. And it's still stupid, insane. Aromaseraphy Jasmine. Summon Lone Fire from deck. Or hell, any other plant. And I don't think it's once per turn. Bro. Cherubini. Another fair one. Foolish, a level 3 for cost. The list just keeps going. These cards were so powerful that they could have been ran even if you weren't forced into links in Master Rule 4. So Konami just profited off a problem they forced on the player base. Gee, sounds like something else they do to the player base every 3 months. The link summon mechanic is so stupid and broken that Konami has had to ban 18 of these pieces of dog ass. If you want a comparison number of how bad that is, they have currently a combined 20 total of the other extra deck mechanics monsters banned. Total. And links have been out for the least amount of time. They're the newest ones. Ultimately, this design philosophy culminated in the Power of the Elements pack. Not the design of just links. They didn't make a bunch of broken links in Power of the Elements. They did make one that was banned and Sprite Up. But this design philosophy of genericness equals free money from the player base. A booster that released a fusion deck in tier elements didn't have any restriction placed on it, compared to the fusion deck released right before it, basically a year or two before, a year and a half, in branded, which locks you into fusions for the whole turn if you use almost any of the effects. This made you a sitting duck to cards like D-Barrier, Ash, and whatnot. A Hell Grave of the Ancient Superorganism or whatever also would crap on you, right? Tier elements, no problem, man. We're making fusions, synchros, XYZ links, everything. We actually use a link to made for Sprite better than the actual Sprite deck. Summon anything, mill your deck, slap the shit out your opponent. Why? Fuck you, that's why. Now give me $800 and go beat these fucking scrubs playing Cyber Dragons. Konami, probably. They also released Sprite, which had some restrictions, but nothing like BA or other XYZ archetypes before it. Sprite's mechanic was the number 2. Listen to this. The number 2, meaning if you had a level 2, a rank 2, a link 2, if you had 2 friends, if you and your opponent were 2 people, you could use those things as materials in any combination to link summon or XYZ summon a link to or rank 2 from your extra deck. A Sprite monster, obviously. They just threw entire rules out of the window because they wanted to for money. This is why people rage. Because Konami does haphazard crap like this. Make it make sense. We go from normal Moye or Aluber to instant fusion into a 1-card FTK. Long story short. The game needs to rein in the genericness. We've gone way too far. I actually like the Sword Soul, branded, those type of decks. Hell, even Fluunderies, right? They only tribute summon. Not that I like Flunder as a floodgate deck. I'm just saying I like when things are more tuned to play a certain playstyle. It's healthy for the game overall. But I'm not holding my breath. Konami is making way too much money off of stupid generic engines, and I know it will not change. Thanks for listening to me rant. Subscribe, like, leave a comment with your thoughts, because I try to read and respond to all of them. Let's keep this train going and grow. We're almost at 400 subs, which is really sweet. Shout out to all you guys for subbing. Hope you guys enjoy all the content I'm putting down. And let's try to get to 1,000 soon. And, only up from there. Thank you guys again. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.